I'm all for doing 230, something we could do right now. We could repeal 230, take away the liability protection. We could do that right now. If Democrats wanted to do that, we certainly do. We've introduced that legislation. I'm all for doing that. What I'm nervous about is this alliance between big government and big tech that Mr. Greenwald talked about. But I also wanted to go to Mr. Greenwald and talk about this other alliance, which I think is just as frightening, and that's the alliance between big tech and big government. Big tech and big government. In your statement, Mr. Greenwald, near the end of it, you said, a mere 2 months after Parler ascended to the top of the charts, members of Congress demanded that Apple and Google remove Parler from their stores and ban any further downloading of the app. We've seen maybe a better example. Just a couple weeks ago, Mr. Greenwald, we saw 2 Democrats send a letter to AT&T telling them to take certain networks off their, not be a carrier for certain networks. And I just want to read something to get your reaction to this. Because Mr. Travis said earlier, Mr. Greenwald, Mr. Travis said, we would all be rightly concerned if government was censoring speech and not big tech. But frankly, it's both. Big government censoring speech too, because we had 2 members, Democrat members of Congress, write to AT&T and they said, we want a specific answer to this question. How many of your subscribers tuned into Fox News, Newsmax, One American News, on UVerse, DirecTV, AT&T TV, for each of the 4 weeks preceding the November 3rd, 2020 election? Please specify the number of subscribers that tuned into each channel. So basically tell us who your customers are, how many you have, and what they were watching. Mr. Greenwald, do you find that a little creepy and frightening like I do?
The time of the gentleman has expired, but the witness may answer the question briefly.
Very briefly, it goes to the heart of the concern that I have, which is I think there's a huge mismatch between the rhetoric that is being offered to justify this bill and what the bill does. If the concern is the failure of local newspapers, then give them the power to negotiate collectively, but not big media, which is so often embedded in the same problems that this committee is